Good morning, students. The other day I had started this particular poem, Ode to Autumn by John Keats, and I told you a few things about this particular poem, about the biographical details, a few of them certainly, of John Keats. He was one of the younger romantic poets of English literature, and To Autumn was written in the year 1820, and perhaps one of the last poems which he composed and which is regarded as one of the best poems ever written by John Keats. So the poem has got 3 stanzas, and these 3 stanzas are called 3 symphonies. The first stanza is a symphony of colors, second a symphony of activities or action, you may say, and third a symphony of music. This is what Rickett points out about this particular poem. I may tell you that this was the only poem written by John Keats which was highly admired and appreciated by his contemporary critics. The remarkable thing about the poem is that we do not find the poet in the poem at all. There is no apparent evidence that you would find the poet's eye in the poem, meaning thereby that the poem is a perfect example of what we call negative capability, the phrase which was coined by John Keats himself. He negates himself for the sake of his poem or for the sake of the subject of the poem, which is autumn. Autumn, as you know, is Patjhar, and autumn is personified in the poem. So much so, the personification is so beautiful, is so perfect in a way that we do not feel that autumn is a season at all. Autumn is some Mr. Autumn or Miss Autumn who is present and about whom the poet gives his description. So the poem begins like this. The first stanza: season of mist and mallow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless, with fruits of vines that round the thatches run, to bend with apples the mossed cottage trees, and fill all fruit with ripeness to the goal, to swell the gold and plumb the hazel shoals, with a sweet kernel to set budding more and still more later flowers for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has overbrimmed our clammy cells. So autumn is personified, and since it is an ode, he addresses autumn in the very first line, and he calls autumn season of mist and mellow fruitfulness. I may tell you this thing very remarkable about the cycle of seasons in England, that autumn in England comes just after the rains, and then after autumn we have got winter. After winter, when the snow melts, we have got a spring. So season of mist and mellow fruitfulness. Mellow fruitfulness because summer has gone by, and now all the fruits on the trees, they are ripened to the cold. There is a kind of mellow fruitfulness, and this is the season of autumn. Close bosom friend of the maturing sun. He calls this autumn as a friend to sun, close bosom friend to the maturing sun. Maturing, the sun which is gaining in size. Close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless, Oh autumn, you are making some schemes. You are conspiring with your friend, which is sun. So the sun and autumn, being friends, they are conspiring. Remember, the word conspire has got negative meaning. You conspire against something to harm something. But here, the conspiracy is there, and since this is the conspiracy of nature, so this is not that harmful, it is not human made, it is nature made, and therefore, O season, O autumn, you are conspiring with the sun how to load and bless with fruits the vines that round the thatches run. You are conspiring, you are making schemes and plans, you are planning how to load and bless with fruits the vines, grapevines, which are there on the thatches, on the little huts in the jungles, and they should be full of fruits, grapefruits. You are planning like that to band with apples the mossed cottage trees, mossed cottage trees. The trees which are growing, apple trees, which are growing near the cottages, and the cottages are, little cottages are mossed because they are old cottages. So there, those apple trees would be full of so many apples. So this is the season of ripeness, this is the season of fruition. So much of fruition, the splendid fruition of course, to band with apples the mossed cottage trees and fill all ripeness, fill all fruit with ripeness to the core, and all the fruits of nature, peaches, grapes, bananas, apples, every fruit of nature would be ripened to the core to swell the gold and plumb the hazel shells. Hazel shells are crowed with a sweet kernel. To swell the gold and plumb the hazel shell. Gold, again a vegetable. To swell the gold and plumb the hazel shell with a sweet kernel, to set budding bough and still more later flowers for the bees. To set budding bough, and now after autumn they would begin the winter season. And then all the bees, honeybees, they would go to a hibernation period of hibernation, and therefore they have collected so much of honey from flowers that their clammy cells, their hives are full of honey. But now, this season, this autumn has grown, has flowered more flowers, and now these bees, they think that warm days will never cease, will never stop, will never end for them, because summer has overbrimmed their clammy cells. Already they have collected so much of honey, and now more honey is there to be collected from the flowers which are flowered by the season autumn. Now, so many colors are there in the first stanza, and therefore the first stanza is called a symphony of colors. You find the color of grapes, color of apples, then hazel shell, then flowers, then gold. All these colors are there. And Keats's sensuousness is also exhibited in the most perfect and beautiful manner. Just see the use of the word mossed cottage trees. To swell, to bend with apples, the mossed cottage trees, this particular line. Now Fred Inglis is there. Fred Inglis is a critic, and he says that when I read this particular phrase, mossed cottage trees, I felt that I have cut some juicy apple, and the juice of the apple has filled my mouth. It is there, my mouth is filled with the juice. So that sound effect is very much there in the lines, mossed cottage trees. And just say how he ends this particular stanza. For summer has overbrimmed our clammy selves. So many doubles are there in the last line. Summer, double M, brimmed, double M, clammy, double M, and cells, double L. Now, somewhere the poet is creating the buzzing sound of the bees when they are collecting honey. So it is a perfect stanza, an example of negative capability. We do not find John Keats, the poet, the writer, in the whole stanza. It is only autumn, 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 which is being described throughout. So this was the first stanza of Ode to Autumn by John Keats. Tomorrow I may take up the second and the third stanza. Thank you.